You can't figure out why that these employees quit when, number one, they don't know if they're doing a good job or a bad job or anything in between. They're just kind of out there adrift on the sea. That was example number one. Then example number two, because you're not telling them and there's no clear direction, they're in constant failure mode. And nobody wants to work where they think that they're consistently being a failure, consistently letting you down, or hearing, if I want something done, I just have to do it myself. If you think that, or if you feel like you're constantly having to edit and fix, this is for you. Learning how to get out of that is a you thing. It's not a them thing.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we give you the exact strategies, tactics, and mindsets you need to fulfill your destiny by helping thousands of people in your community and dominating your market and your life. I'm one of your hosts, Rory Morgan. I'm here along with Jennifer Gligorich and Tracy Sundquist. And in today's episode, you're going to learn how to delegate so that your team can grow your business for you. Everybody's favorite topic. Everybody wants to delegate so they don't have to do the work. Are you guys ready or what?
I'm ready. I'm going to delegate this out. Yep.
All right. Hopefully, let's get the VAs in here to do the rest of the episode for us.
Yeah.
All right. So, picture yourself. Picture your situation. You've got a clinic if you're a listener out there, right? Now, what most entrepreneurs do is they've had one of two experiences when they've tried to delegate, right? So, experience number one is they've asked someone to do something, and maybe they gave them just sort of some general direction. They just said, hey, can you do this? Here's the thing, a little bit of general direction. And then they just sort of hope for the best. They never check in on them. They never get progress reports. The person they're delegating to really knows nothing about that thing themselves. They're not skilled in it. They kind of just hope that the person figures it out. And of course, it doesn't really work. It doesn't grow the business. It doesn't add to the value of the business, right? It's like, wow, we spent time and money and got distracted and nothing happened. Thing number two, the option number two is, you've got a project, it's particularly important, right? And so you maybe have a closer eye on it. And so you give that project to, you make someone accountable for that, right? But you don't have specific goals, specific milestones, specific timelines. None of that is specified. You don't provide them any specific training of exactly how this project needs to be done, right? And then what you as the entrepreneur find yourself doing is basically telling them what to do, checking that it got done, telling them what to do, checking that it got done, fixing it because they never do it perfectly, telling them what to do, checking that it got done, fixing it, telling them what to do, checking that it got done, fixing it. And you're micromanaging the whole thing. And you basically end up doing 95% of it yourself. So in the quietness of your own
peeving
car,
off your employees so much because you look like a total tool that kind of doesn't have direction.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, your employee quits.
Yes. And you can't figure out why that these employees quit when, number one, they don't know if they're doing a good job or a bad job or anything in between. They're just kind of out there adrift on the sea. That was example number one. Then example number two, because you're not telling them and there's no clear direction, they're in constant failure mode. And nobody wants to work where they think that they're consistently being a failure, consistently letting you down, or hearing, if I want something done, I just have to do it myself. Right. So if you think that, or if you feel like you're constantly having to edit and fix, this is for you. right? Learning how to get out of that, because that is a you thing. It's not a them thing. And I know that's hard to hear.
If you don't have time to do it twice, you have to do it right. And I totally botched that. If you don't have time to do it right, you definitely don't have time to do it twice.
There you go. I like that.
I like that.
Okay, guys. So ultimately, why do these scenarios happen? It's because delegation is actually a specific skill set, and there's a specific process you need to follow. All right. It's like you don't learn to slam dunk a basketball just because you just pick up a basketball. It's like you have to build skills. You have to build strength in your core and strength in your legs, and you have to practice jumping, and you have to get better and better at it. And it is something that anyone can learn. It's not particularly difficult, but you have to be able to follow a process, and your team needs to know what to expect. So there's basically three things that it requires to delegate. Number one is you have to have a clear vision and clear, trackable, specific goals with defined time frames, right? Now, let me just be very clear, because all CEOs think this. They think, yeah, it's clear. I know what I want. I'm not talking about clear in your head. I'm not talking about clear because you know what you want. I'm talking about written down, documented with actual like scorecards and spreadsheets and stuff like that you can actually track. Is this getting done, so that the employees have clarity on it, right? If the employees don't have clarity, then it's not clear. Okay. Number two thing you need is you need one single accountable individual for each metric that is being measured or each milestone. There is no such thing as team accountability. There is no such thing as it'll just get done on its own. You can't just trust, like, a person, an individual name has to go down on the paper, and that person has to raise their hand and say, I, Tracy Sunquist, am accountable for XYZ on XYZ date. It will be done by 4 p.m. It has to be that specific. And then the last thing you need is, which I already mentioned, is up-to-date scorecards that you are keeping score with, that you are tracking the accomplishment of that. Okay. So if you don't do those things, there's not really any point in trying to delegate anything, because it's not going to work.
Keep in mind, though, you want to track the numbers, of course, because they're objective, but you also need to watch out for some pitfalls, because if you're going to set up something for, say, you have a sales team and you say, well, make 5 calls between 9 and 10 a.m., those calls can be so bad because they're focused on doing 5 rather than they focused on why they're doing 5. So don't forget to include the outcome that you want, right? So instead of just 5 calls, you might want to say, get 3 patients on the schedule between 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be the difference between outcome-focused goals versus process-focused goals, activity-focused goals.
Absolutely. I think the other big thing is that frequently what happens with delegation is it seems to be a one-way thing, where it's the person delegating just giving a whole list of instructions. But what I've seen repeatedly is that with that download, the person that you're delegating to doesn't necessarily see, doesn't connect to what it is that you're really after, doesn't really put the same meaning on deliverables as you would. So a very easy and effective way to make sure that they've got the message is to get them to confirm it. So, okay, so what do you understand about what I've just kind of put on your desk? Or, can you just repeat that back to me so I can make sure that we're on the same page about this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that we're going to get in just a minute here into the specifics of how to make sure that you have buy-in, right? But it just reminds me to remind you guys, go back and listen to the last episode, because part of the job of a CEO is to set that vision and make sure his employees understand the vision, right? Because whatever goal you're setting, whatever thing you're delegating, should track back in that employee's mind to, oh yeah, I see how this helps us accomplish what our goals are here, right? I can see the usefulness of it. It's not just some random idea that Dr. Rick got when he went to a conference and he heard his friend was doing this thing, and so now we're going to try to do it, right? It's very, very specific.
Yeah, because
Okay,
part of your
so
job is a chief reminding officer. So you do have to remind them, but you also have to make sure that you stay organized. And so that's a skill set that I'm sure Rory's about to talk about.
yeah, absolutely. So step number one, when you're trying to delegate, is you've got to run a team meeting, right? And you've got to redeliver. Now, you should be doing this all the time, but you've got to redeliver the vision of the business and the specific goals that you're focused on. So you've got to make sure that every person understands why the goals serve the vision. You've got to understand how this makes the business better, and your team actually understands why it's important. You're going to want to do things like you're going to want to tell stories of how this changed so and so's life, and we're going to change more people's life, right? You're going to want to tell stories of what it was like when you were getting started and how hard it was, but now we're here, right? You're going to want to get people inspired with those things, right? You might want to go look up, examples of just great businesses and exemplary CEOs who did great things, and they put in they did all these hard things, and they made these hard choices, and they did difficult things that made the business better, and how everybody benefited as a result, right? You do have to be inspirational. Your team has to be excited about achieving the vision. Now, once your team believes in the vision, once your team knows where you're headed, then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be getting them on board to delegate these different tasks to them, right? So the first and most important little caveat I would give, which was already mentioned here, is what is in it for them. So part of inspiring them is making sure that you tie it back, right? Hey, Tracy, you're going to make more money. Like, what are your goals? What do you want? What do you care about? Okay, here's an opportunity for you to make more money. Oh, Jennifer, what do you care about? What do you want? What are you passionate about? Right? Oh, what you want to be able to do is spend more time with your son because he's going to be off at college soon. This is going to allow you, when you do this, to be able to spend more time with your son. This is what we need, and if I get what I need as the CEO, you're going to get what you need as the employee, right? That kind of stuff, right? So, you've got to make sure that your employees see that it is worth it to work hard to build this thing to achieve this milestone, because it benefits me. Because otherwise you just stay at default, right? Well, like, I'm not going to make more money. I'm not going to get any benefit from it. You're just telling me to do this, but I get a paycheck right now for doing what I do. So why would I do that? Right.
Yeah,
So there has to be incentive.
and I also want to say, in different incentives for different staff, like Rory knows I do have a son going off to college, and being able to spend time with them is important. So you're going to have to know your team enough to know like those basic things, right? To get it out of them. Not that you want to be all up in their business, right? Or anything like that, but just generally know what motivates them. And you can find that out in the interview process for the most part, to be able to get them. Because remember, when you're doing your sales, when besides delegation, you're doing things for what's in it for them, right? And that you can use that motivation to also keep them on task. If they what if they're not good at it? What if they need to learn new skills? To keep them motivated throughout the process, because at the end they're going to benefit, they're going to feel better, you're going to feel better, and it's just a positive net benefit for everybody.
Yeah, I want to say Rory hit it spot on. I want to make money. I'm like, show me the money. So if you're going to help me do that, absolutely. I think something that comes to mind for me is really developing those people skills. So delegation is really a leadership skill, but it's not just about getting better results with your team. I mean, it's also going to give you better results with shareholders, with external stakeholders, and even with your potential patients, because once you can understand that different things motivate different people, there are cross benefits that you can get from getting very good at delegating. And of course, crazy time intensive in the beginning, right? You think you want to delegate so you can have more time freedom. Well, it's going to cost you a ton of time before you get that freedom. But as you get better with a skill, so it's going to become easier. And before you know it, you're taking 2-week vacations. And when you get back, things are still working.
100%. Yep. Okay. So after we've got those two parts down, right? Then what it gets into, the next piece is you have to assign individual accountability to one specific individual. Okay. So that person raises their hand and says, I take ownership, right? Hey, who wants to take on this project? Who's going to do this, right? And, Jennifer says, I'll do it. I think I can do a great job. Jennifer is accountable, not the people that work with Jennifer. The team is not accountable. Jennifer is accountable. There is no team accountability, right? So that's the next piece that you have to understand. If one person isn't accountable, then nobody's accountable. Everybody's going to kind of look around and be like, oh, I thought they were doing it. Oh, they didn't do that part. I thought they were going to do it, right? And you just end up with a very, very dysfunctional team that just doesn't allow you to make any progress ever, right?
Yeah. And
let's talk about that dysfunctional team for a second, because that's your fault. That's your responsibility. It's because of you that you have a dysfunctional team. If you want your team to function, you need to man up or woman up and learn what it takes to get them there.
Yep. Just like you hold yourself accountable to be the shareholder and the CEO and in the different spots that you need to be in as the doctor, you have to have someone else on the team to be accountable for something. And then they're accountable to you, not the team. And when people start rising up, when they see that there's an opportunity for that, you're going to be amazed at how team members that you might not even have thought of will heed that call very well. And they'll become leaders where you might not have thought of it. And working with as many clients as I've seen who've there is a big difference from the patient point of view to teams that are working like this, where there's accountability and where they are working at a healthy delegation, and the teams where it's just kind of, he told us to do it, us, there's no one responsible for it at the end of the day. Everybody feels the suckage of that environment.
Yep. Yeah. And ultimately what ends up happening, right? If you're in a slightly larger company where you're delegating it to Jennifer and Jennifer has 5 team members, Jennifer follows the exact same process to delegate pieces of the project to her team, right? So this trickles down the whole organization, right? And this is ultimately a huge part of how you end up training people to be able to be managers in your company, is by effectively delegating to them, and then they can eventually effectively delegate to those under them, right? So when you've got your scorecards and they know who's accountable and everybody's on the same page, like it all hums. It's like, you're all reading from the same sheet of music, instead of everyone playing their own tune. So the next piece here is now you have to decide on either metrics or milestones. Okay. So there are no projects. We never let any project or any initiative or anything that we are delegating, we never let it just be something like to have better marketing, or we want to have better ads, or to improve our branding, or to get better at sales, right? These are not metrics and these are not milestones. These are passing thoughts that serve no value to anyone. So we have to define metrics. So we'll take metric-based initiatives and then we'll talk about milestone-based initiatives. So if it is a metric-based initiative, you have to predetermine what are we going to define as successful metrics. What are we going to say, this equals success. Right? And by the way, you might have projects that have milestones as well as metrics. Right? For example, you might have a sales initiative and you might have metrics you're trying to hit. But in order to do that, you first have to get some certain flyers printed up. And so that might be a milestone that has to get achieved in order to hit the metrics, right? But you just, bottom line is you have to define all of those when you start. So maybe an example. Oh, actually, I don't think I mentioned this. All of the metrics and the milestones must have a specific date, right? So it's not, I'll make 50 sales. It's, I will make 50 sales by July 3rd and that report will be submitted by 4 p.m. with all 50 names on it, right? Whatever it is, there's a deadline and there's a metric. So example, for a joint venture partnership, right? If you want to create a joint venture program in your community where you have joint venture partners referring patients to you, which we've done an episode on joint ventures, haven't we? Does anybody remember what episode that was?
The joint venture episode? No, I don't remember which one it was.
I think it was like two or three.
Two or three. It was 2 or 3.
Well, guys, if you want to have referral quality patients where you have partners in the community referring patients to you all the time, go back and listen to episode 2 or 3. Might as well just listen to both because you'll benefit. So if we're going to set one of those up, we might set a milestone, connect with 50 potential venture partners each week, right? Schedule a minimum of 5 VIP experiences with potential vendor partners each week. Run a minimum of 5 VIP experiences with those potential vendor partners beginning in week 2, right? Because we're setting those up in week 1. Close a minimum of 2 joint venture partners per week beginning in week 2, right? And the report for that will be due every week, Friday, 4 p.m. Right? So now we have something we can measure if it's actually being attained.
And it was episode 2 or second episode because.
But you should also watch episode 3 again.
Yes, you should.
And 1 and 4.
And 5, because I think this is episode 6. So just put it on repeat. Okay, so if the project's milestone based, right? So we don't have a metric we can measure, then we just have to define what those milestones will be. And I already gave an example of that. But you make the commitment and you set a due date for it, right? So Tracy might have to stay up late. She might have to wake up early, but she's making a commitment to get it done. Hopefully she doesn't. Hopefully she can get it done in the time allotted. But if she's committed to the goals, which is what you want as a small business, you need people who care about the goal, right? And they'll stay 45 minutes late to get it done, right? Like you've got to have that type of culture if you're ever going to grow something beyond yourself. So the next thing, these are pretty important, is going to be you've got to get assurance that the accountable individual actually understands the desired outcome. So you're just going to ask them, like, do you understand exactly what it is I'm looking for? Do you understand the vision and the idea and the, everything I've told you? Like, is there anything you're confused about? Okay, great. Get confirmation of that. Next, you need to get assurance that that accountable individual has both the time and the resources. Okay. So they might need to spend money. So they might need a credit card, right? They might, if you say, hey, do you have the time available to do this and the resources you need to complete this project on time? They might say, actually, no, I do not have the resources. I am going to need a graphic designer and I am going to need a salesperson, right? Or they are going to say, yes, right? Hopefully you're doing something that you do have the capabilities of doing, but it's like, you do have to get that confirmation from them.
I'd like to get in here, especially when you're talking about joint ventures or marketing, or really anything in the business. Be sure that they're open to, when you have defined goals that they're going to get to, that you let them know, now we're going to look at this and we're going to see if, next week we're going to talk about what it took to do this. Keep track of your time on this. I want to be able to see the time it's taking. And then you can also manage that expectation better. Maybe they do need more time. Maybe that 45 minutes starts to creep, to an hour or more, and it's because it's taking longer, or maybe not. Maybe they're taking too much time when there doesn't need to be that much time. Either way, you want to agree to the time, and then you want to be able to look at that. But when you have metrics, it makes it much more easy for you to effectively navigate that.
Yeah. And before continuing down the list, this is a good opportunity to help you understand why one-on-one accountability is so important. So as you're checking in with this person each week and you have that one-on-one accountability meeting and they're like not hitting the milestone, that gives you your opportunity to be like, okay, what happened? Where did you get stuck? If they don't have a specific answer, that means they're not working on it, right? Okay, well, the goal was to schedule 15 people. How many calls did you make? I made this many calls. Okay, let's check and confirm that's possible. I made 300 phone calls. Okay, let's just check your numbers. Let's just confirm. Like, maybe you're not making quite as many as you think. Oh, wait, you made 100, but you reported that you made 300. Where's the discrepancy coming from?
I call them all 3 times.
Yeah. And so we, in my business, we actually just fired someone for this because it was like, one-on-one accountability meeting. It's like, you know what? You're only booking a few leads every day, and you're claiming to be connecting with, this many people, and you're claiming to be making this many calls. Why isn't it working? What's going on? Where are you getting stuck? Oh no, I don't know, right? Not non-specific answers. Oh, the leads haven't been as good. It's just been a little bit hard, right? Non-specific. They can't tell you where they're stuck, right? Okay, well, let's take a look here. Sure enough, this person was not making the calls. They were not making the dials, right? But they were reporting at the end of every day that they were. And it's like, okay, what's been going? Oh, yeah. Well, I was really busy. I'm sorry. I didn't tell you. I was just this and that. And then, right. It's like, sorry, that's an integrity issue. If that was going on, we're understanding. You could have called me and said, hey, I have some stuff going on. I'm going to need some time. And we would have been very understanding, but you didn't do that. You lied. And so that's how you discover the stuff. And if you're not having those accountability meetings, you're never going to discover that stuff. You're just going to keep paying this person for doing a job that they're not actually doing.
Okay, let's get back on track because this has gone down a dark road. Although the
Tracy, do you have something you need to share with us?
The delegating does naturally dovetail into performance management. So as effective as you want to get in being able to delegate effectively, you also need to be able to do performance management effectively, which is exactly the same thing, just with a different goal. Yeah. So with delegation, it's about fulfilling the function at a quality and in a time frame that you are determining. But when it comes to performance management, it's about clearly defining this is where you've gone off track. This is what we've done to support you to correct it. You have got this amount of time for us to start seeing progress, and then of course documenting everything, so that by the time it comes where you can see this person just they're not able to, whether it's they're not willing to or they're not capable, you need to move on to the next. You need to be able to get rid of the person and replace them, because it's going to get everybody out of joint if you don't do that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have to be willing to get that feedback. You might be thinking this is how this is supposed to go, but maybe in your market or for what's happening, it's not going because there's something else. Or maybe that staff just needs another pair of eyes to go, well, wait a minute, have we tried this? And then they try this and then suddenly you get it. So it has to be, that spirit of collaboration. You're all trying to get to that same goal. So how are we going to do it? Being able to foster that sort of candor where they can tell you, I really don't know. I'm doing everything you said. And then actually look at it and go, well, are they? And if they are, well, where do we go from here? Maybe this is not the tactic, Either way, you're not going to get any of that insight or move forward if you don't have the one-on-one accountability, metrics, and what we've been talking about.
Yeah. And that brings me to the last point for how do you delegate there, which is make sure when you delegate this thing that accountable individual knows exactly how they can reach out to you and how they can get your time and attention when they need help. Right? So they're not on an island, right? You still stand as the CEO and also the shareholder of the business. You stand to benefit more than the employee does, right? Because you wouldn't be having them do something that is only going to benefit the employee, right? In a business, it needs to benefit the business, which ultimately benefits you as the shareholder. So you still have to be involved in this, right? So it's like, okay, they need to know I'm stuck on this thing that is supposed to work, that I'm supposed to be doing. It's not working. The script that I have is just like it's like it's getting stuck in the same place every time. Can you listen to these calls? Can you help me understand what I can say differently? Whatever it might be, they have to know that they have your support in that. So what we'll do here then is, okay, how do you conduct those one-on-one accountability meetings? And I will run through this very quickly. It's basically like 5 questions, okay? It's at a set time. They know when it is. They're ready for it. You're ready for it. And it is, question number 1 is basically, hey, how's it going? How are you? Right? You're gauging them as a person. Step number 2, let's see your progress, right? So they report their progress to you. They are reporting to you. You are not asking them questions. How's this going? Tell me about this. Tell me about that. They know exactly what they need to deliver to you because you've set this out beforehand. Step number 3, hey, what is going well? Tell me about all the places you're making progress. What's working well about this? Step number 4, where are you stuck and how can I support you? And then step number 5, what are you going to accomplish this week and what is your plan for accomplishing it? And that's especially important if there's tweaks needed, that there's challenges that they face, there's things they need to do differently. That person creates their own plan. You can help them with it, but they've got to take ownership for creating that plan and implementing those changes. And that's how you delegate, guys. You're going to be rich by tomorrow. Now that you know this.
2-week vacation coming right up.
Yeah. Let's go to the Bahamas, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's wrap it up here. And guys, what I want to remind you again is if you want to get into our mastermind where we teach you all this stuff and there's documents that support it and you can download them and you can ask questions of other multi-million-dollar clinic owners and you can network with people that really, really know what they're doing. I run that mastermind with Dr. Zano, who had one of the busiest practices in the world at one time. That website is superclinicproject.com. You can join the mastermind and you can also subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any more valuable episodes like the one that you're hearing right now. I want to ask you for one more thing. Share this podcast with your friends who own clinics. You know it'll help them. Bless them. Share it with them. This podcast will grow when you share it. And so we're giving you this information for free. So pay back the favor and share the podcast because it helps people do the right thing. All right, guys, we will see you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project podcast.